Hello there.
Everyone admires David, my brother, because they believe he truly lives an affluent life. David has lived in that delusion for many years. In reality, the two of us come from a very ordinary background. Since childhood, David has always lied to his friends that our family was wealthy. Because we are twins, he made up a story that I was just the adopted child, which is why there were differences between us. It wouldn't have mattered much until we both entered high school. I chose a stable public school where I could earn a scholarship. In contrast, David wanted to attend an expensive private school, which I will call X, where the tuition fees were 10 times higher than the public school. David pressured their parents to let him attend X, threatening to drop out if they refused. Despite multiple attempts to reason with him, David remained stubborn and decided to leave home. As a result, my parents agreed that they forced me to attend X with David to make it easier to manage him. I had no issues with family supervision, but if I attended, the financial burden on my parents would double due to high tuition fees. My mother met me privately, begging and crying, saying, "We only have one son, and David has been frail since childhood. We hope you can stay by his side." I told her my greatest fear was seeing my parents work themselves to exhaustion just to pay for an outrageously expensive school. After many discussions, I accepted my parents' request. David and I were placed in the same class, but I had no desire to talk to him. On the first day of school, David spent $2,000 to treat the elite group of the class. I pulled David aside and yelled at him. That was the money my dad had earned by working night shifts for the past 3 months for our living expenses. David called me a fool who only knows how to bury my head in books. He pushed me away and walked towards the taxi where Jack, Jane, and Peter were waiting. I wandered the streets until midnight, hoping to find an extra job to help my family. However, as I walked past a pizza shop, I saw the manager yelling at a woman dressed in a janitor's uniform. The janitor could only bow her head and accept the blame, looking pitiful. I sighed and was about to turn away when the janitor turned around. It was my mother. She had lied about teaching extra piano classes in the evening. I didn't doubt her because she used to be an instrumental artist. I hid in a corner, secretly watching her, and cried out loud, "David is a jerk." The next morning, I was searching for my bus ticket. I saw David sitting on a motorbike. My parents had bought that motorbike for us to ride to school. David happily sat on it and revved the engine. I said nothing and stormed off in frustration. I overheard Jane telling Peter, "David is truly a player. I joked about wanting to date a cool guy, someone who would take me around the city on a motorbike, and this morning, David actually showed up on one." I was furious and bluntly told Jane to give up her dream of flirting with David because he was just a fraud. Just then, David walked in, slapped me across the face, and announced to everyone, "Emma is an addict, which is why my parents refuse to support her. She hates me and wants to ruin everything." Then, David, Jane, and Peter all looked at me with contempt and walked out of the classroom. I could only sit down and cry in frustration. Today, David didn't come home for dinner, and my parents were worried. I told them I would transfer schools after the semester. I looked at my mom and said, "I know you've been working as a janitor at night. You can keep giving money to David. I'll get a job and pay my own tuition." I stood up and went into my room. Even without looking back, I could hear my mother crying. The next day, the elite group were discussing Jane's upcoming birthday party. I pretended to read a book while eavesdropping. Peter suggested, "Let's have it at David's house. Only his place is fancy enough for the celebration." Jack agreed, and Jane held David's hand, looking at him expectantly. David hesitated for a moment, then agreed. I smirked, wondering where he would find this dream mansion of his. I returned home after my first shift at the cafe. As I walked in, I heard David asking my parents for $10,000. My parents were alarmed and refused, but David insisted that he needed the money for a big business deal. Furious, I stepped in and told my parents that David had been recklessly spending their money to impress his wealthy friends. My parents were devastated, and David flew into a rage, kicking a chair before storming out. I thought it was all over, but then came this morning. I couldn't sleep and woke up early. When I went outside, I saw David sneaking into my parents' room. A little while later, he came out with a large black bag. I suspected it was the money my parents had saved to pay off debts. I quickly yelled at David to hand over the bag so I could check it. Startled, David ran outside, jumped on his motorcycle, and disappeared. I angrily banged at my parents' door, telling them that David had stolen a black bag. My dad checked the drawer and confirmed that there was over $10,000 inside, the money my parents had saved to pay off debts. My mom was so shocked that she fainted, and my dad and I helped her onto the bed. After calming down, I guessed that David had taken the money to rent a place to throw an extravagant birthday party for Jane. I checked David's social media to see if he had followed any new pages, and sure enough, he had commented on a post about a mansion available for daily rental. I decided to crash the birthday party and expose David for who he really is. David had probably bragged that our parents were on a business trip abroad, so he was staying there alone with 2 housemates. The elite group was busy inhaling balloons and dancing. As the party was about to end, David called the 2 maids to clean up while he lounged on the couch. David would never have imagined that my parents and I would come all the way here. David pretended not to know us, telling his friends that they were just hourly workers and not to bother with us. Immediately, his friends looked at us with contempt and called us dirty lowlifes. David nonchalantly dismissed us, saying that this place didn't need help and they would clean up themselves. My mother grabbed David's hand, but he quickly pushed her hand aside. She began to cry and begged David to come home. His high-class friends started to suspect something. Fearing exposure, David hurriedly shoved my parents out. I couldn't hold back any longer and threw glasses of wine in Jane and David's face. David was about to hit me, but my father stepped in just in time to stop him. My father pointed directly at David and decided to disown him, telling those horrible friends that my parents were just hourly workers who had done every job from janitorial work to housekeeping for David's sake. I told David that Mom worked as a janitor until midnight, and I saw with my own eyes how the store manager humiliated her. After that, my parents left in pain. Meanwhile, the high-class friends quickly turned on him, mocking David and calling him a shameless lowlife, saying that by tomorrow they would let everyone at School X know he was a fraud. When it was just me and David left, he said nothing, sitting there like a soulless figure. I simply told him, "Pay the rent for this place and sell the motorcycle to repay our parents. If you have any conscience left, get a part-time job, pay your own tuition for the rest of the semester, and then transfer to a public school." I walked away, not betting on David changing. I just hope he would learn a valuable lesson and learn to love his family more.
The most foolish thing I've ever done in my life was getting drunk. I got so drunk that I passed out and was unjustly thrown in jail. It may sound ridiculous, but my story might sober you up. However, for me, it's a memorable experience involving my current girlfriend. I had secretly loved Lisa for a long time, and I chose Beautiful Day to bring her flowers and confess my feelings. On the way, I imagined Lisa would happily accept my love, until I saw Lisa and David, our mutual friend, kissing. I cried and asked myself, what does David have that's better than me? Why didn't Lisa choose me? I threw the bouquet onto the street in anger and a sense of defeat. I quickly left before Lisa and David could see me, not realizing that this moment would make me lose a precious opportunity. Later, Lisa told me that it was all a misunderstanding. Lisa explained that she was just helping David blow some dust out of his eye. She told David, "David, are you okay? I'll leave quickly to find Jack. I've always wanted to meet him." Our friend David warmly said, "You and Peter make a great couple. Best wishes to you both. Thank you and goodbye." If only I hadn't left. Alright, I'll continue the story. I went to the biggest bar in the city and drank a lot. Nothing would have happened if I hadn't run into James. James is a distant relative of mine. We've met a few times. He was always looked down upon by the family because he had no achievements. James was mischievous and stubborn. His parents often compared him to me, saying things like, "Why don't you learn from Peter? He's such a great kid." At that time, I smiled innocently, not realizing how bad it made him feel. Because of this, James got me drunk and dragged me into a dangerous plan. Maybe we sat and chatted for a while, but I don't remember what I said. I kept drinking, and he was just waiting for the right moment. I became the foolish prey of his plan to create a shameful story. James took me to a convenience store near the bar. It was midnight by then. James knocked out the store clerk who was sleeping with a baseball bat, and then he destroyed the store's security cameras. I don't know what happened after that because I was already fast asleep, but I guess he must have knocked over all the items in the store. The next morning when I woke up, I found myself surrounded like a dangerous criminal. Next to me was a baseball bat. James had deliberately framed me. The police informed me the security camera system wasn't working, but your fingerprints are everywhere. And the store clerk was knocked unconscious. He's been taken to the hospital. I tried to explain. I'm innocent. I don't remember anything. Someone brought me here. Please, give me some time. But the police were quite stern and said, for now, you'll be detained for investigation. You're the prime suspect. I was taken to the police station, feeling helpless, but unable to do anything. At that moment, I had no memory of what had happened the night before, and couldn't defend myself. Later that day, Lisa and David came to see me. At that moment, I was curled up like a snail in the cell, feeling ashamed to meet Lisa in this situation. Discovering the relationship between Lisa and David made me want to avoid them even more. The police officer looked at me with disdain and said to Lisa, "You only have 10 minutes," then left. Lisa approached the cell, took out a bag of food, and called to me. "Peter, are you okay? I know what happened. You need to eat and keep your spirits up." I pretended not to hear her, but hesitated, unsure whether to stay silent or talk to her. Lisa spoke louder. "Peter, I believe in you. You're a good guy." That statement made me stand up. I walked towards Lisa, but instead of taking the food, I told her, "You and David should go back. This place isn't for you. I'll handle my own problems." Lisa, worried, said to me, "We'll help you." I coldly returned to my spot. David encouraged Lisa, "We should go back. Peter needs to calm down." Then they left, and I sat there, dejected and alone, like a fallen leaf crushed underfoot. I had disappointed Lisa. She later told me that after leaving the jail, she went to a bar to drink. Lisa and David went to the same bar where I had been drinking, and this coincidence ended up saving me. Lisa saw the news on TV about me causing trouble at the convenience store. She must have been very embarrassed. The store clerk recognized me, and she, along with Lisa, investigated the cameras in the bar. They saw that James had taken me out while I was unconscious. Lisa told me that when she saw the footage, she recognized James. I had mentioned him before, and Lisa was certain that James had set me up. Lisa said to the clerk, "I hope you can help Peter. He's a good guy." Lisa and David immediately went to the police station to show me the video. I quickly remembered what had happened that night. I had fallen into James's trap. At that moment, I was filled with rage, and my confidence returned. I was determined to teach James a lesson. As for Lisa, she was very worried about me and said, "Don't worry, David and I will catch James and clear everything up." I was very grateful, but honestly, I felt sad inside because I thought Lisa was in love with David. The next morning, I was taken to the interrogation room. Lisa continued her journey to help me. She went to the convenience store clerk's house without involving the police. After the clerk saw James's image in the video, he remembered the incident. The clerk said, "It was him. He hit me on the back of the neck. I caught a glimpse of that sly face before I passed out. I'll go with you to the police station." Next came David's success. He contacted a fellow police officer to help track down James. They found James inside a bar, and he tried to run as soon as he saw the police. Unfortunately for him, that scoundrel was caught. Finally, the most tense moment between James and me arrived. We sat on the same side, facing two police officers. The police handed James the video from the bar, but he didn't even look at it and said, "I have nothing to do with this." I angrily responded, "James, you got me drunk and took me to the convenience store. You're despicable." James sneered in contempt. The police officer said, "We have a witness. The store clerk remembered everything." Then, the convenience store clerk walked in and said he saw James using the baseball bat to assault him. James couldn't deny it. He lost his temper and shouted at me, "You've always been the lucky one. Why am I always the one who's hated?" The male police officer restrained James and said, "We will detain you for a few days and impose an administrative fine. We expect honesty." James calmed down. I looked at James and said, "You have great qualities. People just haven't seen them yet. I won't press charges. I hope you'll change." James suddenly became vulnerable and hugged me out of frustration. I told him, "After your release, let's meet up. I want us to be close." The police took James away, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I stepped outside, feeling really relieved. I realized I was wrong to get drunk. This was just a minor situation. If I had gotten involved in something more serious, I might have ended up in prison for life. I promised myself that I would never lose control while drinking again. After that, I met Lisa and David. I deliberately tried to avoid them, but Lisa asked me, "Are you okay?" I pretended to be fine and thanked them. David said to me, "Peter, Lisa was really worried. She has a lot she wants to say to you. Congratulations on making it back." I thanked David, and he left shortly after. Now it was just Lisa and me. Suddenly, she said to me, I was so worried about you. I was afraid I wouldn't see you again. I was quite surprised. Lisa continued. I know you misunderstood. David and I are just friends. I picked up the bouquet you threw away. I love you. I hugged Lisa filled with regret. I was grateful she had come. I told her that I had also secretly loved her for a long time. Lisa happily said, from now on, we'll be a couple. That day was truly beautiful as we held hands and left that troublesome place together. The drunken incident made me realize the kindness of friends and the consequences of misjudging others. I hope James will change. One day, he might become a good friend to both Lisa and me.
I was pursued by the brother of the girl I secretly liked, because one day I woke up as a girl. No, you didn't hear wrong. That's the story that happened in my life just a month ago. It may sound crazy, but everything started when I fell head over heels for Lisa. My daily purpose in going to class was to see, of course not this idiot. Lisa appears, it's her, the Mona Lisa of my peer.
Oh my God!
The fact that I secretly liked Lisa was only known to my best friend, Andrew. Every time he caught me sneaking a glance at Lisa, he would find a way to push me toward her. Andrew would always smirk and say to me, Peter, you can't just sit around waiting for someone to love you. Let me help you. And so, one time I got very close to Lisa. My heart was about to jump out of my chest when, wham, Andrew kicked me in the butt, making me jolt forward and fall right into her. It was insane at that moment. Lisa was putting on lipstick. Oh, a streak of lipstick ran from her mouth down to her chin. I felt so embarrassed and regretful that Lisa was furious and yelled,
Peter, what are you doing? You're such a troublemaker. Never come near me again.
At that moment, all I could do was stammer. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, but she turned away without even looking at me. I'll never forget that embarrassing moment. I felt like a fish out of water. Just when I was at my lowest, Andrew gleefully ran outside. And Lisa? If only I knew what she was really thinking, but all I felt was overwhelming disappointment. I completely wanted to give up. I was thinking about the time ahead, like a chronically heartbroken guy, wishing for a click of a button to erase all memories of Lisa. Yet, before I could find any peace, that damn Andrew came up with another crazy idea. He insisted I become a rapper after seeing Lisa listening to rap music during every break. Andrew encouraged me, saying, Peter, keep going. One day Lisa will understand your feelings, and today, Lisa walked into class with a new look. The truth is, Lisa is always beautiful, no matter the style. At that moment, all I could say to Andrew was, I really can't forget Lisa. She's too perfect. Suddenly, Andrew came up with an idea, and he chuckled in an amused way. Andrew said to me, become someone who shares Lisa's interests, make her admire and love you. Peter, you can totally become a rapper. So then, Andrew and I started preparing for an underground performance. A few tattoos and some piercings made me think I looked super cool, until I actually started rapping. I had no idea what beat even meant. The music had gone way ahead, but I still hadn't thought of any lyrics. In the end, I decided to finish rapping first and then think of the lyrics. What was that expression? Was it excitement, astonishment, or feeling beyond expectations? And then I finally realized the destructive power of music. It felt like the blood in my body completely evaporated. I was numb. What was I even doing? Once again, Andrew abandoned me. He's supposed to be my enemy. I had once given up on pursuing Lisa until one day, Andrew and I saw her walking down the street with a bunch of designer shopping bags. Andrew said to me, Peter, I've thought of a plan to help you get close to Lisa. See, Lisa is a stylish girl. You could approach her under a different identity this time. Andrew tried to convince me to go after her, with a risky and crazy plan. However, this seemed like an interesting plan, so I decided to gamble with my gender. Andrew took me to a women's fashion store, where everything from clothes, dresses, shoes to makeup was perfect. I felt even more beautiful than Lisa. Andrew came up with a new name for me, Jane. Yes, from now on, I would be Jane. We followed Lisa to an accessory store, and Andrew and I staged a scenario to bring Lisa over to our side. Andrew pretended to be a picky customer who chose the same bag that Lisa liked, while I waited for the tension to peak before making my appearance. Lisa was admiring the bag intently when Andrew stepped in and said, I chose this bag. Before you, Lisa was quite calm about it and called the store clerk over, asking, could you get me another bag just like this one? The store clerk looked a bit hesitant, thought for a moment, and then said, I'm sorry, we only have one left. This is the best-selling model in our store right now. Lisa started to worry, her eyes fixed sharply on the bag. Andrew quickly grabbed the bag and asserted, of course I'll buy it. This bag is truly classy and perfect for my girlfriend. The clerk, still unsure, said, actually, this is a private store, so we don't dare to stock too many luxurious and expensive models. I'll sell it to the customer who offers the highest price. Andrew smirked and said, fine, I'll buy it at any price, and at that moment, I quickly ran to a corner. I took out the piggy bank I had since first grade and decided to break it. The shattered pieces fell to the ground, and I felt as if they were cutting into my heart. I was in pain over the large investment I had just made. Then I took the money, bought the bag at double the price, and gave it to Lisa. Lisa was in disbelief. She looked at me, bewildered, and asked why I moved, said,
You remind me so much of my long-lost sister. I'll be the best little sister you've ever had. I'm Lisa.
The next day, Lisa took me to her house, and the unexpected surprise was the appearance of Jack, Lisa's brother. As soon as I stepped into the house, Jack looked at me with a smitten gaze, and I had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Sure enough, Jack subtly sent Lisa out of the room to get closer to me. Jack invited me to watch a movie, and I felt a chill down my spine sitting next to him, not from the horror movie, but from his presence. When the movie reached its climax, Jack screamed in fear and leaped onto me, and my wig almost blew away. Taking advantage of his distraction, I ran away. I was still fumbling, unsure of what to say to Lisa when she and Jack showed up at my house somehow. Sigh, I quickly transformed into Jane, and the play continued. But this time, I didn't expect that Jack would be the one writing the script. He confessed to me right on my doorstep, in front of Lisa's hopeful eyes. I nodded and agreed to go out with them. All because of Andrew's damn plan, I now feel like a puppet. It felt like a dream, and what thrilled me the most was being close to Lisa. She is the definition of perfection. My mind was still in the clouds until Jack and Lisa decided to go to the swimming pool. Oh no, I was thrown into another damn situation. It would be so easy for me to get exposed, but if I refused, this might be the last time I get to see Lisa. I was worried, not knowing what to do when I spotted a bag of balloons. A crazy idea popped into my head. I would make water balloons to put in my bikini and continue my role as the captivating Jane. A moment later, I shyly walked out in a revealing bikini, feeling very uncomfortable in my chest. I saw Jack's sly expression, and he disgusted me. Jack and Lisa pushed me into the water and began teasing me roughly. And then the moment came, Lisa's fingernail burst the water balloon on my chest. The atmosphere fell silent. I didn't dare say a word, and Jack and Lisa were stunned. After a moment, I decided to reveal myself as Peter. I spoke to Lisa with the most sincere attitude. Lisa, I'm sorry. I liked you so much, and since you always kept your distance, I had to act. I'll leave now.
Peter, can we be friends? I really like who you are and your little bag too.
Jack came up to me and said, I can help you woo my stubborn sister. At that moment, I realized that if I had been brave and sincere, perhaps my image in Lisa's eyes would have been much better. So, don't be foolish like me, be honest with yourself.